Hello, I'm Roger McLaughlin, Chief Executive of the Westerleigh Group. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to our Christmas Remembrance service. Now, of course, with COVID, things are much harder to organise this year than in the past. And there was a danger we couldn't have this service at all. But our colleagues, together with our audiovisual partners, Obitus, have come to the rescue. And hence we're doing this webcast live to you this evening, and also recorded for those of you who can't attend at this time. Of course, I mentioned there COVID, and it's affected all of us. And much has been written and said about how devastating it's been. And sadly, we have lost many lives. But you know, there has been an awful lot of good come out of this pandemic too. There are heroes in every community, in every walk of life. People who've really gone the extra mile. And of course, yes, there's all the key workers. NHS have been magnificent, as have been lorry drivers getting food to the supermarkets, teachers who carried on teaching and looking after the young people. And in every community, there's someone who has gone the extra mile, a real hero. Whether they've just brought about a smile, whether they've checked on their neighbours, whether they've got shopping for them. Or perhaps it's been you making a call to someone who you haven't spoken to for a while. Make more of those calls, especially at Christmas. There's never been a better time to do it. So phone a friend. And of course, if I may, I'd like to thank all our Westerleigh colleagues who have been magnificent during this pandemic. They have worked tirelessly, all hours, with great dedication, to provide the love, the exceptional care for absolutely everyone who's suffered a bereavement. So tonight, please do enjoy this service. Enjoy the singing, enjoy taking part as much as you can, and have a very Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to the Waterside Chapel here at Westerleigh Crematorium for the 14th annual carol service and its first to be webcasted. My name is Ross James. I'm a funeral director and manager at Roy Preddy, and for those of you who don't know me, I am one of the people that helps organise this evening's service. As Roger has just said, there was a very real possibility that this service would not have been able to take place this evening. So we're grateful to the staff here at Westerleigh and Obitus for helping to make this a reality. I'm very aware this isn't usually how we would do things, but in a year of event cancellations and knowing how much people enjoy this service, with many families returning year after year, we all felt it was important that the show must go on. Before I hand over to Hilary, I was going to say my partner in crime, but partner in Christmas sounds a bit more appropriate. I just want to take a minute to be serious. 2020 has been a year like no other for all of us, including those of us who work in the funeral industry. We are yes people at heart. All of us come into this field of work because we want to help and support the bereaved. Families come to us with their wishes of how they want to say goodbye to their loved ones, and no matter how unique those requests may be, we find a way to make them happen. Since March, that has become increasingly impossible. And we've had to say no time and time again. And it has been a real challenge for all of us. This, combined with an unprecedented demand on our industry, has meant we've all had to work harder and longer. We are the key workers that rarely get a mention, so I felt it was important that a public thank you should be made this evening. To all of our colleagues in the funeral industry, whether you're a funeral director, funeral arranger, our bearers, mortuary staff, our ministers and celebrant, crematorium and cemetery staff. We have all seen our colleagues rise to the occasion to fulfil the bereaved's need as we best can. But lastly, perhaps most importantly, to thank the families we have served during this time. Thank you for entrusting us with your loved ones and for being understanding and patient when we've had to say no. So as you watch this service this evening from the comfort of your own homes, whether you're watching us live or in the days leading up to Christmas, please enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the fact that you don't have to wear a mask here this evening and that you can sing as loudly as you want to. when the carols get started. I'm now going to hand over to Hilary, as normal, to get started.
Thank you, Ross. It does seem very odd to be standing here and not to have this crematorium chapel full to overflowing. Ross has talked about singing carols. One of the things that I think has been very difficult for me as a Christian minister over the last few months is that when we have been allowed to worship, we are not allowed to sing. How do you celebrate Harvest Festival without singing, "Come ye thankful people, come"? And certainly, how do you actually celebrate Christmas without being able to make a joyful noise with all the carols that we know so well? We are going to be listening to the carols here this evening. You have the advantage at home that you are going to be able to sing loud and lustily and to celebrate the Christmas story. For all this will feel very odd. I hope that as you sing the carols, as you hear again the familiar words of the Christmas story, something of its love and its joy and its hope will touch your lives. And that as you remember those that you have loved, so you will find through this service something of encouragement, something of joy, something of hope, that will be there for you as you go through the Christmas season. We're going to now sing one of our carols, the first of our carols, "Hark the Herald Angels Sing."
See
In the Old Testament, the birth of Jesus is prophesied, and now Lara is going to come and read from the prophecy of Isaiah.
The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this.
We sing, O Little Town of Bethlehem. The shepherds come to visit the baby Jesus. Brenda is now going to read from Luke.
And this is taken from Luke 2. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world, and everyone went to his own town to register. So Joseph went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. Now, while they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in clothes and placed him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. And an angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. Today, in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is Christ the Lord. And this will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in clothes and lying in a manger." Suddenly, a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to men on whom his favor rests." And when the angel had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby, who was lying in the manger. And when they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. But Mary, she treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. And the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things that they had heard and seen, which were just as they had been told.
If you were all here in the chapel, then at this point I would probably say you can remain seated for the next carol. I'm not sure, as you are seated in your homes, whether you are standing for the carols or whether you are sitting in your armchairs. But if you have been standing, then perhaps you can sing this one in comfort. "In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan."
Water like a
The wise men journey to see Jesus. And now Luke is going to read the story from Matthew.
After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born the King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chiefs, priests, and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem in the land of Judah, are by no means least amongst the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star that they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. They opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route.
And so we now sing, "O come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant."
Oh,
John seeks to explain the purpose of Jesus' birth. And so now Ian is going to read from the Gospel of John.
In the beginning was the Word, excuse me, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that ever has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning the light, so that through him all might believe. He himself was not the light, he only came to witness the light. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or a husband's will, but born of God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling amongst us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth.
We sing Once in Royal David City.
Once in Royal
We now come to a time of remembrance. Message cards of love and remembrance have been sent out and have been put on the tree here in the crematorium chapel. And so we're going to listen to a piece of music. And as we listen to this piece of music, I want you to think of those that you are particularly remembering this evening. A time for reflection, a time for going back through the memories that you have, a time to be touched again by the love that you have shared with those that you have loved. And so let us listen and remember.
I was walking down 57th Street towards Park with the same old song in my same old heart, making plans I'm gonna do when I get older. Past a gray-haired man and I found his eyes. It's like he knew my thoughts and he read my mind, saying life is gonna find you when it's supposed to. Felt my feet stop short and I turned my head, tried to lean into every word he said. Then he said, when you are younger, you wish you're older. Then when you're older, you wish for time to turn around. Don't let your wonder turn into closure. When you get older, when you get older. My thoughts right before their prime. Have I bit my tongue one too many times? Have I said it all the way I really meant to? If I wait till my tomorrow comes, is the waiting all I've ever done? And will I get to know myself in the place I am, get to fall in love with another man? When you are younger, you wish you're older. And when you're older, you wish for time to turn around. Don't let your wonder turn into closure. When you get older, when you get older.
And so let us bring all our thoughts and prayers together as we say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. For those of you who are regularly a part of this service, then you will know that there's now a sort of slight change of mood. I want to go back to the story of the wise men. Traditionally, the three wise men were thought to be Melchior, Caspar, and Belshazzar, who had journeyed a long way to find a newborn king. I want to do just a little bit of imagining. Three royal wise men had travelled from the Far East and found themselves in a run-down backwater little town in Judea called Bethlehem. It can't be here. There is no way it can be here, Melchior shouted. He climbed down from his camel. We might be royal wise men, but climbing down from a camel after hours of uncomfortable travelling isn't something that you can do with dignity. Camel travel is bumpy, and camel grumpiness is catching, and Melchior has enough of his own without catching any more. It can't be here. There is no way it can be here, he shouted again. Here, as I said, was a run-down little town in Judea. Here, in particular, was a cheap, shabby little inn bursting at the seams with tired travellers who were certainly not the kind who mixed with royal wise men. Oh, I could see what Melchior meant. If we were looking for a royal prince, then no, it couldn't be here. It all started a few months ago. Oh, it was all Melchior's fault in the first place. Stargazing, the new hobby that was supposed to keep him out of mischief and out of our hair, had led us on this wild goose chase. We should have known better, for when Melchior gets hold of something, he can't let it go. He went on about charts and patterns, and then suddenly in the dark sky there was a star that would lead us to a special place and a special person. And so we were persuaded to follow the star, and here we were, hundreds of miles from home in a shabby inn, with Melchior grumpily beating himself up for having got it so wrong. He started to climb back onto his camel. Meantime, Belshazzar had done a bit of exploring and had found some noisy shepherds coming out of the stable at the back of the inn. He couldn't make any sense of their wild, cheerful ramblings, but the stable seemed to be the source of their excited enthusiasm. He came back, grabbed the grumpy Melchior off his camel, and the three of us went round to the stable. It was a stable, with the warm, mucky smell of cattle and donkeys mixed with animal wee and manure. There was Dad standing looking bemused, and Mum with the contented, exhausted weariness of new motherhood. She smiled at us as if we were somehow expected. In the centre of a feeding trough, on a layer of clean, fresh hay, was a baby. Its crumpled new face seemed to be looking at us. There is no way it can be here. But we knew that the star was right. This was a special place, and this baby was a very special person. The last few months have been incredibly difficult in all kinds of ways. And yet, and I can't believe that your experience is any different from mine, there have been moments of joy, moments of love, moments of hope. And those moments have been found in sometimes the most unexpected places. Neighbours, perhaps, that we've never spoken to before. Food parcels that have been put on a doorstep. You can't have a hug, and yet somehow a connection has been made with someone that you might not have expected it from when you needed it most. Whatever the Christmas story means to us, it is that in all the circumstances of our lives, there is the touch of love and joy and hope for us all. Ross.
Because we're being filmed this evening, usually I trawl the internet to find something appropriate to read, but because of copyright legislation, I've got to be very careful what I read. So I've had to write my own this evening, so be kind, please. 2020, oh what a year. January, get a move on, someone pass me a beer. Panic buying, taking its toll. What on earth did people do with all that loo roll? Social distancing became all the rage, whilst people stayed at home and got an 80% wage. So we all decided to go off on hikes, then before you know it, the world and his wife had a bike. Every month, a new phrase to learn. The bottom line, just stay indoors and hide from the germs. FaceTime with family when you felt stressed. Unfortunately, it seems some didn't bother to get dressed. Finding PPE was like panning for gold. By the time we got our hands on it, we all felt so old. Soon we had masks to wear at the bar, but most of the time, you forgot it was still in your car. Go home by 10 before you get in a state, which was good news for me, because I'm a lightweight. Sanitize, sanitize, everywhere you go. Thank God I don't live in a chateau. Finally, along comes a track and trace app. Scanning QR codes, oh, what a load of... I'll let you finish the rest. It's fair to say we've all had a moan, but just look around, you're not on your own. It's December now, and Christmas is here. So let's make it a good one and fill it with cheer. Now, usually this is the part in the service where anyone who's in here who knows me dreads it, because we come to the 12 days of Christmas, which is usually followed by a slight dance routine. Obviously, because of this evening and the restrictions in place, we can't do that. So if you know the actions, then feel free to do them at home. Sadly, we won't be able to, or thankfully, I think for most of you, you're glad you aren't able to. But we will be listening to the 12 days of Christmas.
On the first day of Christmas, my true love sent to me a partridge in a pear tree.
On the second day of Christmas, my true love sent to me two turtle doves and a partridge in a pear tree.
On the third day of Christmas, my true love sent to me three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the fourth day of Christmas, my true love sent to me four calling birds, three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree.
On the fifth day of Christmas, my true love sent to me five darlings, four three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the sixth day of Christmas, my true love sent to me
6 geese a laying,
five darlings, four birds,
three French hens,
two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree.
on the seventh day of Christmas, my true love sent to me. Servants want to say, 6 geese a laying. 5 birds. 4 calling birds. 3 French hens. 2 turtle doves. And a partridge in a pear tree. On the 8th day of Christmas, my true love said to me, 8 geese a laying. 6 geese a laying. 5 birds. 4 calling birds. 3 French hens. 2 turtle doves. And a partridge in a pear tree. On the 9th day of Christmas, my true love said to me, "Thy will is dancing, little kids and rabbits." Servants want to sing, 6 geese a laying. 5 birds. 4 calling birds. 3 French hens. 2 turtle doves. And a partridge in a pear tree. 10th day of Christmas, my true love said to me, 10 ones a week. Is dancing, 8 maids a making. 6 geese a laying. 5 birds. 4 calling birds. 3 French hens. 2 turtle doves. And a partridge in a pear tree. On the 11th day of Christmas, my true love said to me, is dancing, 8 maids a making. 6 geese a laying. 5 birds. 4 calling birds. 3 French hens. 2 turtle doves. And a partridge in a pear tree. On the 12th day of Christmas, my true love said to me, ladies dancing, 8 maids a making. 6 sons a singing. 6 geese a laying. 5
I'm glad we didn't try and dance along to that because I don't think we'd have kept up. That was a lot quicker than we normally have it. That brings our service to a close this evening. Is there anything you want to say before we finish? Thank you for joining us. We hope that next year things will be different and we'll be all together again, and we will certainly make up for that then. But that's the end of the service this evening, so thank you for joining us. Good evening and a very happy Christmas to you all.